Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the program, at least the pre-show to the program. Glad. Let's see. I got to get rid of that, and I got to get rid of that. This is all just to set up and make sure the pre-show is here for a reason, just to get us all set and ready to roll. So, waiting on the server. Oh, there we go. Well, there we go. I was just uploading things to my website, and I think that worked. I just stopped doing what it was supposed to do. Boom, boom, boom. All right, just making sure things work. Go in here. I have children walking in. We have 1 minute till we go live over on the YouTube channel. So you got about 30 seconds to say hi. Then you got to scram, Sam.
My name's not Sam.
I know what your name is.
And I'm also not a leprechaun, so.
Okay, that's good to know. So what are you up to? How'd Scouts go?
I got stuck in a baby swing.
All right. Well, there it is. Okay, you got to go. Give me a hug. I love you.
You might be able to.
See you later. Go quick.
Don't look. See?
I'm not going to look right now. I don't have time. You got to do what I asked you to do. Gosh, Dad. I got to do what you asked me to do? Yep, children. Yep, that's the way it goes. All right, guys. We're going to go black. We'll be right back.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the program. I'm your host, Scotty Roberts. This is my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSYradio.com. That's if you just want to hear the audio version of this show. Easy to do, easy to find. Go on over to ODYSYradio.com. And if you want to watch the video simulcast, go over to youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. That's my page over there. And you can see I think it's now over 1,200 archived episodes of this show. And you can find them all over on my YouTube channel. And you can enjoy them over there anytime. And most of them are very timely. There's not too much that we talk about on this show, other than maybe politics, that doesn't have a time clock on it of some kind. So, because all the things we talk about here, talk about history, ancient history, weird archaeology, creepy archaeology, cryptids, UFOs, paranormal, ghosts, weird religion, studying religion. And let me ask you, we were talking about the jinn for the last couple of weeks. Do you consider the jinn to be religion? Do you consider it to be mythology? Do you consider them to be real spirit beings? Do spirit beings exist? This is all kind of what we're going to talk about tonight, and talking about religion. And is there a rationality to religion, to the things that we believe religiously? And as you know, and I kind of put it in the subheader of the show tonight, religion is on the decline. Religion, quote unquote, RELIGION. Religion itself is on the decline, but our fundamental human needs have not changed since the inception of man. Our fundamental needs. And is religion or spirituality something that is one of our fundamental needs? And Randall Flagg, good to see you. And Kalena, good to see you. Spirit, hearts, gods, and goddesses, Cordia, nice to see you over in the chat room. We got Randall Flag. Oh, I already said hi to Randall Flag. Sorry for the double up there, Randall. Sarah Yusuf, good to see you. Jason Patrick, JP, right back. I thought it was. Never mind, just stopping that joke in its tracks. There it is. Stop it before it even starts, JP. And who else we got in here so far? I know there's a whole hell of a lot of you out there that aren't showing your face in the chat room. Come on, expand your horizons. Jump into the chat room and enjoy yourself. Talk with some of these fellow Intrepids out there. Go on over to my Patreon page if you want to see it's really the same show. We air them all publicly over there as well. It's airing it at Patreon right now. The Patreon site is there to give you another means. If you'd like to support this show, it's over there. Go check it out. $4 a month over there. If you'd like to join this channel on my YouTube channel, you can already subscribe. Subscribing's free. It's nothing. This show is always free, no charge for anybody. But if you want to help support this show and help us get on to bigger and better things, then come on over and join the channel. You can just click the little join button. It'll tell you all about how to do that. And let's see, is there anything else I got to throw out there that's about money? No, I don't think so. Everybody's always looking for money. You know, I noticed that today in dealing with the government of the state of Wisconsin on several different little issues, just tax issues and things like that, and how much money the state takes from us, how much they continue to take from us. And it's funny that they talk about, and I'm not prepared to talk about this at all. It just popped into my mind, and I want to make mention of it. It just seems to me, I am a conservative. I'm a fiscal conservative. Although my life doesn't always reflect fiscal conservatism. I am a little more middle of the road when it comes to my social issues. You couldn't color me as a straight conservative. But for the most part, I look at things like healthcare. All right, healthcare. Healthcare, and we mentioned this the other day. I don't think that there is anybody out there in this country that should fall through the cracks or be allowed to fall through the cracks when it comes to healthcare. But there are people who do. And usually it's not the very poor. The very poor have outlets for them to go, and they're without getting into it, without doing any research on the organizations, there are organizations and governmental programs that exist to help the very poor when it comes to medical issues. The very wealthy don't have much worry with that. They can have their own health care. They can pay for health care. And they can also have the money if something tragic comes up where they can dig deep and it doesn't hurt them quite as badly. But it's the middle classes, and it's the classes of people that are in between. They're not wealthy. Some of them are better off than others. Some of them are poorer than others, but they're not considered impoverished. But those are the people where you find there's no fail-safe for them. They can qualify for state health care or national health care. They can qualify for those things, but they are also on that cusp between the things that insurance will cover and the things it won't cover. For instance, public health here in Wisconsin. I know this from experience because we were on it. Dental. Let's say you have a tooth blow up on you. Man, that needs a root canal, the dentist says. Covered. 100% covered. But if you want to get a crown put on that, after they've drilled it all out and done your root canal, it's going to cost you $1,000. What if you were one of those families where the $1,000 that you had has gone over the last few months to pay for excessively high gas prices, excessively high energy costs? I look back just over the last 6 months, we average, when I totaled it out, $3,800 rounded off for the last 6 months to Excel Energy, just for electricity. $3,800. What's $3,800 divided by 6? That's around $600 a month. And it's nuts. And then there's, of course, water on top of that, which is a separate bill. Natural gas, which is a separate bill. It's funny, natural gas seems to be our lowest bill. Well, no, water is. And so you look at all these things and you say, who are the people that fall between the cracks? They're the people that make, say between, what's the national poverty level? Isn't it like 26,000, something like that? So the people who make between 27,000 and 100,000, ranging in that range from being, now this is just my opinion, this is not backed with statistics, but looking at those figures that people earn, if you're making $32,000 a year and you've got a family with 2 kids and a wife or a husband, and let's say you've taken 32,000, many of us would look at that and go, 32,000, oh my God, are you in poverty? But then you have couples that, let's say they both make 32,000. So you're raking in $64,000 a year. But that doesn't cut it anymore. Something's wrong with our economy. Something's wrong with our country, as we all know. And again, not prepared to talk about anything specific about this other than sitting and working with all kinds of numbers, all kinds of tax stuff. I filed my taxes already. We already filed our taxes. We got a return. That's already been in and gone. But just looking at it for first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, starting to look at all this stuff and you go, wow, how are we making it? And because I don't have a career with a company, and Rainey works, but she doesn't have a career with a company. So we're taking in money. And this isn't about money. It's about the country in general. Where are we? Are we, the first time I ever heard a president say this was when Reagan was running for office in 1979 to 1980. And he kept asking the question, ask yourself, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? That's a good question, I think, to continue to ask. Let me ask you all, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Better off. Does that mean you're making a little bit more money? Does that little bit more money, is that going to your retirement or the things that make you happy other than paying bills? That little bit of extra money more than you made, say, 4 years ago? Or is that going to just barely maintain? These are good questions that everybody has to ask. And so, while there are times, I will be very honest with you, there are times I wish we had other choices right now. There's really only 2 choices for president. Because if you don't vote for one of those, I guarantee you, we talked about this on Sunday, if you don't vote for one of the 2 choices that's out there, you are throwing away your vote. And while you have the right to vote, don't you have a responsibility and an obligation to vote for what is going to make your country work better? Not just, I don't like either guy, so I'm going to vote right in Mickey Mouse. Or Cthulhu. Daniel Craig. And heaven forbid, you work in a family business. He says, I'm part owner of the company that my grandfather founded. Younger generations have branded me a Nepo boy, nepotism. Even though I spent every summer break in college and my winter breaks as well, sweeping floors, loading trucks, doing all the grunt work required to learn the business from the ground up. Yeah, I get that, brother. I get it. I didn't have a family business that I went into, but I get that. I understand it 100%. Inflation ate up any increases in pay, said Elderberry. Yeah, I think most of us have experienced that. And inflation is not, if you listen to the current administration and the White House talking about inflation, they are either stupid people or they think we're stupid. And I think the latter is what applies. And why aren't they just aren't telling the truth to the American public? Why aren't they doing that? Because they know they won't win that office back if they do tell the truth. This is crazy stuff. When you think about it, Ross Perot, yeah, he was a joke, Elena. And so you get a third party candidate in there. I would love to vote for somebody like RFK Jr. I think he's a great candidate. But voting for him is going to take votes from one side or the other. Which candidate would you vote for that would take votes away from the Republicans? Which candidate that you vote for would take votes away from the Democrats, depending on where you stand and who you want to vote for. If you like the way things are running, then certainly vote for the office that's already there. If you want to change, there's really only one choice. You vote for the other guy. Because you vote anywhere in between, you're wasting your God-given right to vote. You can't handle the truth, says Daniel Craig. Exactly. So I'm sorry, it comes down to that. I know there are other opinions on that. You can certainly state them in the chat room. But it comes down to might hate a two-party system. We might love to have more parties involved. But it just really comes down to a couple of people. And especially in the system we have right now. And all I would ask the Democrats, and I've said it on the show before, you don't have anybody better to run than Joe Biden? And I think people like Trump and love Trump enough. That's why you don't see anybody going up against Trump. So it's really come down to one of those two choices. And then you got to decide, I don't want either of those choices. So what do you say? Which one of those choices should I cast my vote for that's going to better the country? Or do I just throw it away by voting on a third party person and just kind of throwing all the chips in the air, see where they land? That's just as bad as not voting. This is my opinion. Hopefully Creepy Joe will get pushed out before. Well, if he gets pushed out before the election, we've all heard, it's going to be Michelle Obama will run or Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom just came out wanting to have a constitutional amendment to add a 28th Amendment that would nullify the Second Amendment pretty much. It would take all the testicles out of the Second Amendment and make it much more difficult for anybody to own a gun. And he gives his impassioned little speech, if you ever saw his ad on it. But the problem is he's already done this very same thing in California. Yet the bulk of your killings by guns, where do they take place? California. You got it. So it's very interesting. Yeah, Michelle won't run. I don't think so either, Sean. I really don't. So, didn't mean to get into that tonight. That's just a thought as I was sitting here prior to coming on tonight, that these are things we have to consider. So let's go, put on the brakes, lay a little rubber on the road as we brake, and shift gears. Because I want to talk about rationality and religion. Rationality, I think, is a very good point. I used to say a lot common sense, that I would be the common sense party. But when we did that little show a few weeks ago on common sense, I really learned something myself, is that common sense isn't so common. So maybe the way to look at it is, are we rational thinkers? Are we rational? Are we critical thinkers? And so with the decline of organized religion and people's reliance on organized religion, now, that doesn't mean the Catholic Church is dead or anything like that. You look at churches like the Catholic, the Greek Orthodox, Ukrainian Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Roman Catholic. All the major religions are still in play. But they're starting to decline. Why? Because people are tired of religion. And they prefer this thing we call spirituality. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, people will say. What the hell does that mean? I know for me, I've said that. I am no longer part of the church, but I am a spiritual person. And I believe in my spirituality. Now, does that include many of the things I believed when I was in church? Yeah, it does. But I no longer believe in the church. So, is there rationality to religion? Is the question I want us to consider tonight. Because I think I really think it's an important question. I've got a couple of different big points I want to try to get to. And there's a psychology of replacing religion with spirituality. And although religion is less popular than it used to be, our fundamental human needs haven't changed. And many people have turned from religion to spirituality to meet their needs for community, for meaning, for fellowship, for that closeness, that extended family thing. And spiritual replacements for religion might generate questions as people live with them. And beliefs about God are also shifting. And there's all kinds of uncertain effects that come along with that. I question God all the time on this show. So in recent years, many of the people I know, and me too, we've shifted our approach to religion and spirituality, particularly in places with more resources, such as certain regions of the United States and Europe. Religions generally became less popular. And I got to tell you, I was in organized religion, the conservative fundamentalist Baptist movement. And I was very turned off by that when I started getting into working with companies like the Moral Majority. Even though I didn't disagree with anything, with most of what they had to say, I disagreed with their tactics. That was, if you don't know the Moral Majority, you're not very old, like I am. The Jerry Falwell Moral Majority movement. And I did find, by the way, that Jerry Falwell was a pretty decent guy. He was a pastor of a church that was made the titular figurehead of a religious conservative movement. And some of the people within that movement were some of the most foul people I had ever known. And I thought, how can you have an organization that calls itself Moral Majority standing on Christian fundamentalism and be so foul at people as you are? You're not old, Scotty, says Kalina. Thank you. Thank you. I'll take that. Come to Mermaid Church. We have tacos, says Daniel Craig. Fish tacos? Boy, I had fish tacos for the first time just a few years ago, and I went down to North Carolina to visit my daughters and their respective men, and they were good. Liked them. So, whose wife? Hug his wife. Oh, you talking about Jerry Falwell? I don't remember much about her, to tell you the truth. So I was down in Virginia, Lynchburg, Virginia, working as a creative director or an art director in a print shop. There was a big mailing shop that did all the little flyers you get in the mail and stuff like that. And our biggest client down there was the Moral Majority. And I was there in 1983 and 84. That gives you an idea. That was right in the thick of the beginnings of the Moral Majority. The AIDS issue was brand new, and all of that was happening at that time. So anyway, let's move on with this. There was a team of psychologists of religion that were led by a woman named Julie Exline. And the shifts away from religion occur in at least three forms. First, an individual may be done with religion entirely. That they may no longer consider themselves religious and may no longer affiliate with a religious community at all. Second, a person might continue to identify as religious, but might pull back their involvement in the church or in their religion. And you notice you don't see a lot of this in Buddhism and Hinduism and Taoism and all of that, but you see a hell of a lot of it in Christianity. Someone might decrease attendance at religious services or spend less time reading religious texts is the result of that. And third, as an individual may disengage from their religious identity and religious participation and instead focus on this thing called spirituality. So we are discovering, maybe this is just psychologically, but new ways to meet these ancient needs that are built into us. Now, let me ask you a question. Opinion time. Answer this question for me. Is there an ancient need for God? Where does that come from? Does it come from the evolution of the brain and the mind? The needs of human animals? Does it come from something God instilled in creation? What do you believe about that? Was there, and you don't have to pick any particular religion to say, I recognize that there is a God or a superior being or somebody greater than I'm a divine. Did that divinity plant within us at creation the need to know a divinity or to crave one or to love one or to recognize one? Or is this just something that has evolved with human beings as we evolved from lower species to greater species? It's a question. In his book, The Power of Ritual, a guy named Casper ter Kuile, he explores and advises on this third possibility. He argues that though many people in the developed world have become less religious in recent years, the underlying human need that religion addresses continues to be vital for human flourishing. He wrote this in his book. This is a quote. He says, "It may be helpful to think of the human longing that leads to religious culture as akin to music and the music industry, which has struggled mightily over the last 20 years. With CD sales in free fall for much of the 2000s and 2010s, but our love for music still endures. The same thing is happening in our spiritual lives." And by the way, that whole CD sale thing, it all transferred over to online, downloading to your phone. So CDs are as out as cassette tapes were when I was in high school. So the same thing's happening in our spiritual lives. Attendance at congregations is down, but our hunger for community and meaning still remains. We still want that. We long for that. Look at this chat room right here that's connected to this show. I see almost all of you, the same people, almost every time we do a show. This place, I'm sure, I know there's other places too, but this place in particular, for a couple of short segments a week, becomes a place where you meet for community. You enjoy it. You enjoy communing with the people here. That's a good thing. But this is a hunger we all have on one small level like this show or greater levels. So in light of this author, ter Kuile, he puts a spotlight on something many of us may not have noticed: the creation and surge of engagement in what would be called spiritual replacements for religion. Now, he concludes this. He said, and this is another quote, formal affiliation with a religion is declining, but millions are downloading meditation apps, attending weekend retreats. Moreover, they find spiritual lessons and joys in completely non-religious places like yoga classes. Cleo Wade and Rupi Cower Poetry, and accompaniment groups like Alcoholic Anonymous and Dinner Party, and stadium concerts and karaoke replace congressional singing. Podcasts and tarot decks replace sermons or wisdom teaching. I notice I've got that TikTok account of mine where I do a reading a day. And those readings become almost homilies, mini sermons sometimes. Not preaching at someone, but talking about the message of the card and what that means for daily life. So those things have become surrogates for religious sermons. Same author notes some of the possibilities in this new era that we live in. Individuals can unbundle traditions. They remix them with sacred rituals that build community, that create a meaning for them. And so in line with this, along with Vanessa Zoltan, Tercule created the popular podcast Harry Potter and the Sacred Text as a way for individuals to virtually gather and to ritually share a close reading of a beloved book series. And have you noticed that too? Things like Harry Potter series, paranormal investigation. Think of any topic you want. They become the surrogates to having a religious service or a religious ceremony. Hey, Jeremy Hansen, good to see you in the chat room. Welcome to Unleashed Jeremy Hansen. So another example, if you go for a hike and a pike, a hike in a park, when you leave your car, you power down your phone to more intentionally connect with the natural beauty. You make a point to look at a tree in a park, to connect with a tree. I decided the tree that I saw was going to be this old gnarly oak, one that stood out from the rest. And I found one matching these criteria overlooking the St. Croix River, which is just a couple of miles from here. And I mindfully walked around it 3 times in a kind of a sacred gesture to both appreciate the tree and ritualize its significance. Next time I hike at this park, that tree will surely have added meaning for me because I gave it meaning. Remember when we talked about looking for the fae, the fairy folk, the elementals, that you can just go out to a quiet place, a little bit away from the hubbub. Doesn't have to be far away, but a wooded spot. Go and sit and just be quiet. Not even really meditating, just being quiet. That place is going to become familiar to you. You keep going back there. Keep doing it. Go out there some other day. Go and play music if you can. Guitar or sing, hum a little tune. Don't have to be embarrassed about other people because you're way out in the woods. And if they hear you, so what? They're not singing and you are. No, I didn't hug it, Sean Strike. I did not hug the tree. No, they did, says Randall Flagg. Daniel Craig says, I did claim new moons as holy days for mermaids. There you go. But you'll never find the fae unless they want to be found. Isn't that the truth? We talked about Bigfoot and Sasquatch in the same way. There are people that you would call themselves priests of this whole thing with the Sasquatch thing. I think it's a little weird when I listen to it and encounter it at the same time, but who am I to cast aspersions on what they want to believe? But they say, guys in particular said, they will reveal themselves to those that make themselves worthy to be revealed to. And of course, religion will tell me it's all satanic. It's all a lie of the devil. It's all demonic. Preying on the minds of humans. So, there's questions about spiritual replacements. There's a lot of research evidence to show that increasing community and meaning contribute to positive life outcomes, such as enhanced well-being. And I do wonder, though, whether these spiritual replacements could start generating their own doubts and questions for people. For example, what constitutes a sacred text? Is Harry Potter sufficient for that? For those groups? Would Mary Oliver's poetry or some other text be better? What constitutes holy writ to these new replacements that we form? More broadly, is spirituality defined by how we approach certain activities, or does it always have to be anchored to a certain kind of substance? Although it was a lovely experience, and though there's no reason not to do this, could I do better than a walk around a beautiful tree 3 times? Yeah, I could do a hell of a lot better than that. It was just a particular ritual that day. So part of viewing religion and spirituality as a quest is to ask these kinds of questions, honestly seeking what is true and good whenever the process may lead, wherever it may lead. But what about God? What about God? What about the divine? What about the superior being? What about, as the jinn called it, the originator? Jeremy Hansen says, I've spent a lot of time in the woods. He says, and the deep woods. If you sit still and silent, it's a whole new world. Isn't that the truth? I agree. It's been a long time for me since I've just sat out in the dark, deep, dark woods. You can walk around the tree 4 times, says Daniel Craig. Yeah, there is that. So, if you sit long enough, you'll draw ants. My grandfather said, he says, go draw me some flies. He used to tell me. So, and one day I did. I drew a baseball stadium with a guy hitting a fly ball, and he was elated. He thought, I was like 7 years old. He thought I was the most creative thing in the world because I did that. When he meant garbage-eating flies. But what about God? Perhaps the biggest unanswered question concerns God. Now, there's national survey data that reveal how those who identify as spiritual but not religious are considerably less likely than those who identify as both spiritual and religious to believe in the God of the Bible. 20% versus 84%. But they're considerably more likely to believe in some other higher power or spiritual force in the universe. So 73% versus 15%. And other data show how among the religiously affiliated, belief in God has also diminished with time, along with being affiliated with a religion. If we find community and meaning in ways disconnected from traditional religious constructs and institutions, will it matter if we lose God in the process? Is God at the core of us? Again, I'm going to repeat that question. Did the desire or need for a God, was that something that developed through evolution and societies that we formed, or is it something that was instilled in us by a creator? I used to say, even in the Tarot, with the, as a matter of fact, it was the 2 of Cups, I believe it was. 2 of Cups. That says you may have everything you want in life, but you're still missing something. There's that missing element. There's that, what we used to call that God-shaped vacuum in our hearts that only God can fill. And we keep trying to fill it full of other stuff. Cram it full of this. That doesn't work. We shake it all out and start over again. We cram it full of this. Oh, that didn't work. And we shake it out and start all over again. Sarah Yusuf says the constant patterns in nature suggest intelligent design. I agree with you, by the way, 100%. I'm trying to think when Richard Feynman, when he said he's looking for the answers. And that's where he had said something like, the earth, he says, the earth. He says, God, and he didn't use the word God, but he said that he didn't even use deity. I can't remember how he said it. That force, that thing that everybody looks, he says that God, he chose the earth to come to out of all the vastness of the universe. So either the earth was specifically designed for God to do that, and there is nothing else out there, or the things that are out there aren't at all the same. He either specifically designed the earth, as Feynman would say, or it was by chance. So he said he chose the earth. He says, for me, he says, I question and I doubt. And I look at that and I think that's far too local, too provincial, too colloquial to think that God created this planet just to come to and do his work. But that's his way of thinking. He said, I might be wrong, he says. He said, but one thing I'll tell you for sure, he says, I don't want to live all my days believing one thing, believing that was it, eventually to come to find I believed the wrong thing. He says, so I always doubt and I always question. That's what Richard Feynman said, contemporary of Einstein and Oppenheimer. And something fun I learned, just a little tidbit out of doing this Jinn series. I said to my son tonight, we were driving, he and all his friends, they're going for an overnight. And I said, by the way, do you know where the word genius came from? No, Dad, where'd it come from? And I said, I've been doing this series on genies or the jinn. The base word for genius, or the word defined as genius, came from the base word for jinn or genie. Genius was presupposed to be a certain type of magic when somebody was genius. It's interesting. So now, considerable research demonstrates that perceiving a personal relationship with God predicts various psychological benefits, particularly when the relationship is interpreted as secure, never-ending, and when God is thought to be warm, caring, and loving. That's what I became. I became a born-again Christian when I was 11 years old, into the conservative fundamentalist Baptist church. And those are all the things that it offered. As the researchers noted, individuals might perceive God as an essentially powerful source of support. And this seems especially true during difficult times, when perceived control of anything in our lives and the universe and the world working around us is at an all-time low. So also of interest is the research that shows how individuals who had difficult childhoods are considerably more likely to have a religious conversion later in life. Maybe because of the security that a perceived relationship with God provides when people otherwise have a history of not feeling safe. And I'm using the word perceived relationship with God in the same way I use mythology to talk about, this is the human mythology. This is the religious mythology. This is the perceived relationship with God, the way it's perceived by people. That's what I mean by that. We have a creator any way you slice it, says Unleashed Jeremy Hansen. So I saw an ivory-billed woodpecker this year. It was a spiritual experience. They're almost extinct. He said, yeah, there are things that we see that tip us over that brink of spiritual experience. As we explore a new spiritual landscape that's out there that really replaces religion, and it might be because there's a security that a perceived relationship with God provides when we have a history of not feeling safe. Clarity sometimes comes from that. And do new spiritual lifestyles improve our lives compared with our formerly religious lifestyles? Do we miss God? Does the practice of community, of spirituality, become an empty, foibles practice when there is no object for it? I've asked myself that at times. If I deny the existence of God, what good is this for? Other than you can say, well, that's good for your community and your society and so on. Well, what good is it on the great, grand, ethereal scale? Do we miss God? Do we yearn for God? Is this what makes us want to replace him with something else? Because we miss the thing that we knew as God, which we didn't really know. If we can replace it with something else or try to, it means we're not really perceiving and conceiving and understanding who that person is. The person of God, the divine, the creator, the originator. And if we don't understand that, and we try to find it somewhere else, we keep trying to find something that is just as or greater than that thing that we had always put our faith in, that we obviously don't really believe in all that much or understand all that much, or we wouldn't seek it somewhere else. Daniel Craig says, when Cat Stevens went swimming and nearly drowned, he tells the tale of being saved by Allah, and he converted to Islam. I remember he converted to Christianity. Converted to Christianity when I was in high school, and he started doing Christian music. Cat Stevens. I'm trying to think of any one of his songs off the top of my head. I can hear them, but I can't sing them. So, do we miss God? Do we yearn for God? Or do we not even care about God? What about religion and spirituality most helps us flourish? What about those things? How we come to grips with these questions might contribute to the next chapter of how religion and spirituality evolve in the ongoing 21st century. Do you think? And if it evolves, moonshadow, Cats in the Cradle, was that was Harry Chapin, or was it Cat Stevens that wrote it? I don't know. I know it was Harry Chapin who sang it and made it famous. Moonshadow, though, I remember that one. So, this is the question. Should we be shaping something different? But why does religion, why do we leave it? Why does it seem to involve outlandish beliefs? Religious and other groupish beliefs. Are those factual beliefs? The puzzle of religious rationality concerns why rational people hold beliefs that don't seem rational. Wasn't it Michael Shermer that wrote a book, the head of the Skeptics of America or something? He wrote a book on why people believe weird things. And he's not damning of those people. which was a nice thing about his book. He's just asking the question, why do good people believe weird things? He says. The English term belief is polysemous. It's referring to at least two different cognitive attitudes. Groupish beliefs explain people's cultural identities and are most effective when false. Sarah Youssef says religion and history is constantly moving and changing. Chuck Thurston says, I always say I'm spiritual. These are people over in the chat room, folks, if you're not there. He says, I always say I'm spiritual, but not religious. I kind of say the same. I'm religious about my spirituality. Sean Strike says, good songs, but before I was born. Yeah, I was in high school. There it is. So when conversations turn to religious diversity, it does not take too long before someone says something like, how can they believe such things? And where they refers to participants in some religion other than that of the speaker of that statement. Devoutly religious people regularly express astonishment that other devoutly religious people could possibly believe some outlandish or downright silly thing. How do you believe that? Look at the things that they say, that they mock other people for believing, and then at the same time, they believe some pretty outlandish things themselves compared to what other people think. So this exhibits what the philosopher Neil van Leeuwen, it's Leeuwen, Leeuwen, dubs the puzzle of religious rationality. And he had this brilliant book, Religion as Make-Believe, a theory of belief, imagination, and group identity. And that puzzle concerns how people who seem otherwise impressively rational on virtually all other fronts subscribe to religious beliefs that seem anything but rational. Not passing judgment on it, just saying, looking at it from outside the box, you're a very rational person who believes something that seems rather unrational. And crucially, each group is often completely blind to the outlandishness or downright silliness of some things that they themselves claim to believe. It's like the title of van Leeuwen's book, Religion is Make-Believe, a theory of belief, imaginary, and group identity, when I did that series on the life of David, King David, the real life story of an imaginary hero. Not imaginary, I think I used made up. The real life story of an invented hero. It's not that I didn't believe anything about David. It's that a lot of his story was apologetic in nature and even differed from some of the other books in the Bible that talked about David. So his story was something that was a made-up story about a real guy who really did a whole hell of a lot of the things they said he did. Faith is as real as love, said Unleashed Jeremy Hansen. And we all know how love goes. Love either really works or really doesn't work. It's really real, or people put all these trappings on it, and they don't really know what they're talking about. They don't really know what they want. And so it becomes empty for them. Daniel Craig says, for me, my family vacationed in Greece when I was in first grade. I climbed the steps of the Parthenon at the Acropolis of Athens and felt the presence of the gods. I had outgrown monotheism by the time I was 12 and have been a practicing pagan for over 40 years. Experience like that molds us. I had that same feeling, Daniel, and I've mentioned this story before. I was 5, and my mom's husband, my stepfather, Ukrainian, had us baptized into the Ukrainian Orthodox Church at 5. And I remember wearing a suit for a 5-year-old, carrying a little silver box. I don't remember what the significance of it was, with things inside for my baptism, I guess, identity. And walking into that church, it was dark. There was iconography. And the whole feel of the place to me was like, even though I couldn't define it at the time because I didn't understand it, God is here. And that, I think, formed for me for many, many, many years, decades, the way I felt about God, even though I didn't follow the Ukrainian Orthodox Church teachings. That there was something there. There's a new theory of cognitive attitudes. And we've only got a minute left here, so I can't really dig into this the way I wanted to. We'll pick it up another time. Maybe even next time, if we're lucky. But his answer to this puzzle is that the English term belief is used in two very different ways to label what he argues are dissimilar cognitive attitudes. He distinguishes what he calls groupish beliefs. That's important examples include what he calls religious credences, quoting the Apostles' Creed, things like that, from mundane beliefs, the most familiar examples of which are factual beliefs. We got to end that there for the radio audience. We'll talk about this more in the Captain's Cabin. You can come on over to my youtube.com/Scotty Roberts and join us. But for now, all of you in the radio land, live long and prosper. Everyone else, sit tight.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep,
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave. All you lubbers, welcome to the captain's cabin. This is our after show, folks. If you have not been here before, this is where we get a little more casual post-show, and we have callers that'll call in, and we talk about things. Tonight, as happens so often these days, I'm kind of tired, so we'll see how late it goes. It all depends on the kind of conversation that ensues and what's going on. I see my friend Born Flippy is here. It's good to see you, brother. I haven't seen you for a long time. Nice to have you in here every now and then. And I don't know why it is, but whenever I see your name up there, I think of a particular tarot set because I did a reading for you over the phone from my car. Has to be, oh my God, has to be 16 or 17 years ago. Can you believe that already? So 16 or 17 years ago. And there's a certain card that comes to mind. And it was, I believe it was in this deck. It was the Golden Tarot. Now, we weren't on a camera on the phone, I don't think, but it was this deck, the Golden Tarot, that I read for, and it was the Magician card I had from this deck that I don't know why, Rick, but this is, and by the way, Born Flippy, I just gave it away. His name is Rick. I don't know why, but the vision of this card always hits my mind when I see your name or when I talk to you. I'm going to find it so I can show everybody the card because this visual is always in my head. I just saw it in here today when I was shuffling. So I know it's in this deck. And then it's not there. It's not there. It's not there. It's not that one or that one. Oh, wait. It's not that one. It's certainly not that one. Nor is it that one. This one, skip a bit, brother. It's not that one. It's not that one. It's not that one. Or that. Don't tell me it's not in this first handful I picked out of here. Because I want to show you this, guys. I think it's important. And Rick, you'll want to see this too. So I have either passed it or it's going to be the very last card in the deck. So I've got just these left. We'll see if it's in here. Boom, boom. And I don't know. Here it is. I don't know why this is important, but this is the card. Rick, every time I see your name, every time I talk to you, it's like, I don't know why my brain chose this image to fixate on. But this is the card I see every time I think of you. It's just a flash. I don't think of it and consider it and go, gosh, I wonder how Rick is as the magician today. I don't think that. But I look at this. It's the vision in my head. It's the guy that's got all these things floating around him. And the magician card, as I talked to you about it back then, 16, 17 years ago, So the magician has all these things in nature that are surrounding him. And the thing about the magician is he has the ability to reach out and grab any of those things out of the air that he needs to create the spell that makes the magic to perform the thing that he needs to have done. That's what the mage does, the magician does. And you always seem to have that power of that magician to me in my head, and I think, and that stuck with me. So it's a powerful card. And I think I described this to her at one other time. I showed that card to you. And so it's always stuck with me. Don't know why. It's just there, and it probably always will be now. I keep reinforcing it, probably, is why. So there you go. Good to have you here, Rick. That's what that was all about. I got to put on my cheaters. My second eye surgery comes on Thursday of this week, by the way. This one's healed up really well. It's just blurry today. I don't know why I'm so blurry today. I think it's the other blurry eye that makes this one seem more blurry. Because I cover this one up, I can see a lot better out of this one. So cataracts is what they were. This one was done almost 2 weeks ago. This one, my left eye, gets done on Thursday. And then hopefully in a couple weeks down the road, everything will be nice and clear and crisp and clean. As this eye is. Travis Thorpe, good to see you. I pop in as you pull the magician card. Who'd have figured that? That's Travis Thorpe. Must have been ringing in my ear, he says. Yes. Yes, that's a very good card for Travis Thorpe to enter the room with. Brain compensation. Says Sarah Yusuf. About Travis Thorpe and Rick and the magician or my eye? Brain compensation, yeah. It's I don't want this one to get weaker now because of this. So once this one gets strengthened, I think they'll both really. My doc said it'd be something like 20/40 vision. So which is actually not that bad. Oh, my eyes, yeah. My eye. So just trying to gain domination over my baser self, says Born Flippy. Man, I hear that. Didn't the Apostle Paul say in the New Testament? He says, all the things I want to be and do, I find I don't do them. And all the things I don't want to do, I find myself constantly doing. He says, so I keep under or push it down my body so that I can have victory over it rather than it having victory over me. Control, self-control, he was talking about. So, Sarah's here. She's out here in the wings. Rick, you can call in too. Travis, you can call in. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Scotty.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
What's up? What's on your mind?
Well, I was thinking about what you were saying about being spiritual versus,
Yeah.
traditional religion. And I think, that to me, saying you're spiritual is kind of like fence sitting. You have
Yep.
one foot in
Yep.
belief and the other foot in disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I think some of that is also, derived just from actual wear, because, like we talked last week about the whole legalism of it.
Yes.
And understanding, what actual, words or, if you consider holy words or whatever, what they mean versus what they are broken
E
down.
plebnista, the holy
Yeah.
words.
Well, I mean, it's how things are broken down. So, I mean, people will get legal about how things are translated. If it's not in the original text, they will argue about the type of verbiage the style, and rather than try to understand the meaning behind the words. It's like that whole thing about not seeing the forest for the trees. And
let me just say goodnight to Travis Thorpe. Thanks for stopping by, Travis. We got to catch up.
Yeah.
He's got dad duty.
Right.
So
So because our perception of our environment, our world, our reality is very limited. So it's like we're hyper focused on certain things, and we have to be selective in what we choose to hyper focus on. I mean, it's like you have a cell phone. You can either get the usage out of the cell phone, or you can worry and overthink on what makes a cell phone a cell phone. How does it work?
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
So and in some ways, some people view religion as sort of an explanation for what, like when we were talking about the unknown and the paranormal, right?
Yeah.
Even in the beginning of humanity, beginning of time, when you had cave people, they were living a totally different life than we were, because
Yes.
you could be here. I mean, they didn't live in a life of comfort. You could step out of the door and be killed, and
Yeah.
try to find either reason
Dinosaur would
for
eat
that.
you outside the cave.
Right. So I mean, trying to navigate this physical world. So I mean, religion sort of creates a type of mechanism that psychologically that we can sort of deal with. I mean, are we
Yeah.
going to be paralyzed by fear our entire lives, or are we going to go out and do something?
Right.
We're constantly evolving and changing, and most traditional religions, it's the tradition part. That's based off of history. So, and history is all constantly moving, constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in the Christian church, things evolve. The types of prayers that they use. I mean, they even updated the rite of exorcism, which has been around, for
Yeah.
since the last time I think they changed the rite of exorcism was for the 1400s, and then they updated it I think in the 90s. So I mean, things. I mean, based on what our reality is now, I mean, our perceptions everything has changed. We don't
Yes.
think the same that we would as somebody in medieval times or in the early Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
So, history is constantly being created and formed. So, we're all evolving and changing and moving in a direction, whether it's forward or however you want to choose to say it. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm just listening. I was going to say I agree with that.
Well, you often do, apparently, and then. But
Well, while we think so vastly differently on some things, it's amazing to me how much we think alike. So
are you afraid?
that I think like you?
Yeah.
No, not really. That doesn't scare me. I'm not afeard of that, as Kenny would say. So, yeah, I think I see things a lot in the same light that you see them, and so it's interesting.
I mean, to go back to the name of the show, is there rationality to religion?
Yes.
So, I mean, to use the word rationality, it seems, and I'm sure you don't mean it this way, but it seems rather judgmental. Because
maybe.
Yeah, because we don't know, when a person is driven to a certain sort of action, we don't know the
Mhm.
process from beginning to end, what led them to do that. We can't read minds or why people do things a certain way. There's
Right.
there's obviously history to that, or something affected them. And so I'm coming, and then we're on an outside perspective because we don't have that God perspective of seeing everything.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that there is such a thing as rationality, or there isn't? It's just we don't understand why people do things the way they do.
Yeah, I think it's looking at it. It's meant to be looking at it from the perspective that people on the outside look at it.
Mhm.
Is religion a rational thing? And that, of course, is a very maybe it's a very subjective question because it depends on what your point of origin is. There's a lot of people that think, I don't know, I might look at some, used to look at some, okay, I'll use an overt example. I look at the snake charming, Appalachian Baptist sort of types, the weird ones. You can see by weird. I say weird. I see it as irrational. I think it's irrational to speak in tongues and to force a venomous snake, to bite you, saying that God will preserve you. Now, they don't think they're being irrational, but I think they are. What if it doesn't work that time? Well, God meant for me to be taken then. Oh, no. Maybe he meant for you to do greater things than submit yourself to a snake and get bitten and die in a dumb death. So I look at that and I say, I believe that to be irrational.
Because you don't understand it, right?
Because, I don't understand it. I understand the explanations they give. I don't understand it. But see, I think there are some things that we can be. We can look at some things and go, that is really dumb. I may not understand your rationale. Born Flippy says, sorry, can't chat. Damn Mike is on the fritz next time. I saw you pop up in here, Rick, but it wouldn't keep you. It wouldn't hold you. But I see some of that stuff as so dumb and so irrational. Yet we see it, we read it in books. I think people have devised literary arcs around this kind of stuff because you go, oh, what if I took that dumb thing? What if that guy that murdered that politician or attempted to murder that politician, what if he was a time traveler that came back because he had seen that this guy, if he got elected to office, he would destroy the world. And so he has to take him out. The reverse of saying, if you could go back in time and kill an Adolf Hitler, would you? And so you look at that and you go, is that a possibility, or is that a stupid story? A fictional story might not be a stupid story, it might be a really good story.
That's a movie, I think, right? Or was it?
Well, there was what's his name? Christopher Walken played in that movie. The one about Hitler, or about a politician.
Right.
What the heck was that called? Anybody know? Dead something. Where he was in an accident, an automobile accident, and he wakes up and he's been gone out for X number of years, like 12 years or something like that. And he wakes up from a coma. And he's like, what the hell? He's 12 years older. His fiance is married to someone else, et cetera. All these changes he had to put up with. And yet he was born with this sight that he could see something. And he could see the future. He could see things. And there was this politician that everybody loved, that he saw him as somebody that would launch the world into World War III and total catastrophic destruction of the globe. And Dead Zone, that's it, Born Flippy said. The Dead Zone. They made that a series too. And it was a pretty good series. Even it was the kid who was in The Breakfast Club, who played the geeky kid. I can't think of his name.
Anthony Michael Hall.
Anthony Michael Hall. But even my wife said he grew up to be a hot-looking, studly dude, she said. And he did. He grew up, he looked really good, grew up into his body. But he played the part in that. Christopher Walken played it in the movie. And it was pretty well good. It was a good concept. But like all concepts, the series can't last forever because you're going to run out of concepts, run out of stories for it. But yeah. So what about that? Are there stupid things? I only bring up that movie as to cite an example of how somebody might take a stupid idea, is that maybe this killer was informed by aliens that this guy needed to die, so he killed him. We go, how stupid, what a lame defense that is. Or the guy's mentally deranged. What if it was true? Is the idea. So all of that, put that all in a can. That's all I was saying, is there's some pretty stupid things we conceive sometimes. And so I believe there is not always, I do believe there's a rational way to view things. I think we become, maybe it's political correctness, maybe it's, some people think we're evolving into a gentler form of being, or whatever it might be, but we have all these reasons that we want to believe certain things or act certain ways, when in reality, it used to be things were absolute. There's an absolute here, or there's a black and white here. I remember reading a book when I was not long out of seminary. It was called The New Absolutism. The new absolutism was that the new absolute is that there are no absolutes. That's the new absolute in our society. There's no such thing as an absolute. And that's an absolute.
Well,
We got Rick Church here again. Is he not? Oh, Rick, it says devices not connected. Sorry, brother. I just noticed it now. It popped out. Try it again.
Well, what I was saying was that, of course there's going to be no absolutes, because we are constantly changing. We're constantly taking in data. We are learning things.
Yeah.
We're reading books. Our ideas are constantly evolving. So to be absolute is practically,
but the absolute is
we'd be
that
dead.
we are constantly evolving.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be like a mental death.
Do you think we'll ever evolve beyond the belief system that says murdering somebody in cold blood is wrong? Is that an absolute? See, that's one of those, philosophically speaking, that's one of those absolutes where I don't think you can outgrow that. We can't evolve away from that.
Well, I mean, murdering someone in cold blood, I mean, I'll play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure.
What would prompt a response to initiate that? Did that guy do something? Did he do something to?
Well, see, that's when we start to pull apart or dissect his reasoning.
Right, it's illegal.
That would be like the madman from the future. I'm saying if somebody just in cold blood kills somebody, does he have his reasons? Maybe his reasons are only contained within his irrational mind. Maybe he believes by killing this person, he's doing something good. But that doesn't change the fact that he committed murder in cold blood. Took somebody else's life that wasn't his to take. Even though he might perceive he had good reasons, and he could offer those up as a defense and really believe it. We still overall as a society say, you can't do that to somebody else because you think it's the right thing to do. So we have these weird absolutes that we stick to. That will always be an absolute.
Well,
there's things of physical science, of course.
Well, I mean, there's also going to be, the basic logistics of the social contract and how we are able to live in groups versus, just living on our own. That you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
JP. Drinking strychnine was one that always got me. At least with the snakes, there's a possibility of a dry bite. There you go. And Rick, I see that it's not working for you. You have a mic. It's okay. I'll get it working for next time. Cool. Be here next time. Wednesday. We'll bring you in, Rick.
Yeah, don't leave it to me to kill the show.
You're not killing the show.
But.
Well, and JP can call in too. So, But I know what you're saying. And I think sometimes, and this is not in any way to be offensive to anything you're saying, but I think sometimes we play this mental gymnastics with these things to try to work out whether something could be perceived a different way, or whether we could take something that we think is an absolute and, and so on. It's like I used to say, this mug is white. Okay. Ignore the printing. The mug is white. Now, somebody might say, well, I don't perceive that as white. That's not white. That's black. Well, that's white. Look. Well, maybe his word for white is black. I don't know. He could come up with many different things. You could say this is a white ashtray, a white mug. The white ashtray was the one I used. And I was in a philosophical debate with a couple of people around in a pub with a white cigarette tray, and we were talking about it. That's how long ago that was. Cigarette tray inside a pub. And I said, just because I want to think or I could perceive that this is blue with purple polka dots, doesn't change what it is, because my perception does. My perception could be, that's blue with purple polka dots. It doesn't change the innate color of the mug. So, but then you have to ask the question, is my perception of it right? So it's presupposing a few things, that there's an absolute to begin with.
Well, I mean, I take issue with the word saying a perception is right or not. I think you're also touching upon, that Greek concept of S, that
yes,
S or S, of what things actually are, in their innate sense. What makes that? And to put a more modern example, if you remember, like a couple of years ago, there was a thing that was going around the internet about a dress being blue or gold. Yeah, I don't know if you remember that, but I mean,
I remember that.
That still is going on through the internet.
Still,
in some shape
still
or
out there?
form. Yeah, it's still out there.
Wow.
Whether it's dress or shoes or whatever.
And Adriana, how are you doing tonight?
Good, and you?
Good.
Good. I just thought go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was just going to ask you to go ahead. What's on your mind?
Oh, it's just, I believe that there is something out there. Maybe it's because of the way that I was brought up. I mean, you mentioned the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Yes. I was brought up in the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, which lots of similarities. And it's just, I remember, I can't, if I can't go to my church, I don't go, because I don't feel the same connection as I do with the Ukrainian Catholic Church,
Sure.
with all the iconography and the incense and all the candles and the singing and everything. It just, I don't know. It just seems like whenever I go to church, if I have a problem, either the reading or the gospel has to do something, has to do with my problem, to help me out. And it just, when I was in the choir, you felt good, it's like while you're standing there singing, it's like, I felt like something would come and take over as I would be singing. So, I think it just all depends as to how you're brought up,
Sure.
as to how it affects. But yeah, that's just with all the experiences that I've had over the years, that I personally believe that there is something out there. It's just everybody has their own definition of it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I would call that having definitely, feeling a sort of resonance, whether you want to call it, being taken over by the Holy Spirit. There's different ways to call that experience, and people see it in, different ways. That Scotty may see it in a different perception than I may. So for me, I mean, I'm sort of not really the opposite, but I mean, I would be comfortable praying in a Catholic church or a Christian church, just based on, my religion, which I'm not Christian. So, I mean, I would be fine praying in the outdoors, wherever I could, because, I consider the entire thing, belonging to God. So,
and I'm not saying that I wouldn't go to other churches or whatever when, if it comes to that I need to, but it's just a completely different feeling. Like, there's a Roman Catholic church on the other side of our block, and when my son can't go to church, he runs over there, and I don't know if it's because it's a more modern Roman Catholic church. It's like all brick, and it seems very cold and sterile. And he comes
Yeah.
home, he's like, "Mama, I don't feel the same like I do when we go to our church."
Right.
So,
If I was going to go to a Roman Catholic church, I would prefer a Roman Catholic church. See, I prefer the classical architecture,
rite?
the classical
Yeah.
structure of a church. I don't like the whole concrete and brick church,
Yeah.
And it's preference.
Mhm.
I like an old building. I like old creaky wood floors. I like, the coolest church I was ever in, and I didn't understand a word they were saying because it was in Egypt, but was a Coptic church
Mhm.
in old Cairo that was a place. There's no cars on the streets, the very narrow streets and so on, ancient streets
Mhm.
and the buildings. And they said that this church was built on the place or in the place that was Mary and Joseph's home in Egypt. Remember when they fled when Jesus was a baby, they fled the wrath of Herod and they went to Egypt.
Exactly.
And you think now this is one of those things that a person might say, well, that's irrational. You could never know that. There's no historical record of that. Why do good people believe weird things? But this church dates all the way back into the beginning of the 3rd century.
Mhm.
And that tradition had been there for only about 200 years, 250 years, something like that.
Mhm.
That this was the church that Joseph and Mary lived in. And it wasn't like they started that church 100 years ago and it was 1900 years after the fact. It was pretty darn close to the time. It was even before Constantine's mom was doing her archaeological stuff in the 300s. So, but I was in that church and I didn't take pictures inside just out of respect because they had a service going. But I got pictures on the outside. But they said this was I don't think it was the structure that's there now, but it was that structure. It was that place. That's where that house was. And who knows? Maybe it was that house. I don't even remember all the details behind it. But you can look it up. It was a neat door, just a step off the street, the cobblestoney looking street, and boom, you're there. Nothing special about it.
I mean,
Except that the church was almost 1,800 years old.
How important is it for that site to be the site where people believe that
Some people
have the concentration of energy, the
I think
concentration of belief.
Yeah, I think it's the you just said it, the concentration of energy. I think it's why would we go to a site where it's like I could go to Glencoe in Scotland. And remember, this is one of the first places I ever said this about. It was in 1990. I stood in Glencoe where the massacre of the McDonald's took place. And I stood there and I said, this place, it's palpable. You can feel it. Nobody's built, there's a visitor center there and stuff like that, but you don't have communities thriving there like there were 400 years ago, 300 years ago. And why? Because I think the place is held to be sacred because of what happened there. I think it's interesting. Culloden Moor, again in Scotland, right off of Loch Ness, Inverness. And Culloden Moor is where the Highlander is engaged. General, it's right on the tip of my tongue. The English general, and it'll come to me.
Cromwell?
I've only said it 100 times. It was 1746, so it's after Cromwell.
Okay.
It was. Don't you hate that when it's right there and you're going to say it, you can see it, and it doesn't come out. But he was the Lord. Anyway, they met on that battlefield. And that battlefield is still there today. And it's filled with cairns and markers for the different clans that fell there. Culloden Moor was the end of the Scottish Highland clan system as we ever knew it. It was never the same in history. It's more, they don't have the governance they used to have anymore. And, oh, goddamn. It's killing me that I can't remember his name. And I used to teach this impromptu. But you go on that site, and nobody will build on that site, except a few years ago, some unscrupulous land developers wanted to do that. They wanted to build onto that site, condominiums and stuff like that. And historians and people got up in arms about it. And there was a big legal battle over it. And could you imagine taking a site like that and building over it? It's just a moor, and they had to fill it in. And JP, if you're listening, find me the name of the. Oh, he's there. He's here. Boom. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Was it Burgoyne?
No.
No.
I remember American Revolution. Who were the British? Howe, Burgoyne, Clinton, Cornwallis.
Right.
Howe and Burgoyne and Clinton too, with Prescott and Cornwallis joined. That's how I remembered that.
So okay, let's see. What's the moor again?
Culloden.
Okay, the Battle of Culloden.
The Battle of Culloden. Who was the English commander?
All right, I can do this. Computer.
I'm trying to look at it right now.
Who was the British commander at the Battle of Culloden?
At the Battle of Culloden, the British commander was William Augustus, Duke of Cumberland.
No,
he led the British government forces in the battle and achieved a
Stop.
That's not the guy. Hold on. It's going to drive me insane. Sorry, listeners and everybody. It's going to drive me insane. Duke of Cumberland. It was William Augustus.
Said.
Yeah,
Prince William Augustus, Duke of Cumberland.
That's what computer just said.
I know. I heard Augustus, and I went, no. And I went, oh yeah,
it's the Duke of Cumberland.
Duke of Cumberland. And did you know, by the way, that Bonnie Prince Charlie and all the Scots, they were within a half a day's march of London.
Mm.
And they were trying to decide, do we move on London? Do we take London? Because, of course, Bonnie Prince Charlie, Charles Edward Stuart, he believed that he was the rightful heir, and he was actually the rightful heir to the English throne. He had more claim than anybody else at that time.
Yeah.
And they all got together, and all the clan leaders, they all decided, too risky. We don't know, Lord Cumberland's probably there. And so what do? They're within 10 miles of London. They turn around and they march all the way back up to Culloden, to Inverness is where they're going, which is 450 miles north. Who should they meet there? But Lord Cumberland has all his troops up there already. Had they moved on London, they would have taken London.
Yep.
And so, military history, there you go. But Cumberland, why I could not remember his name. There's the Cumberland Gap. There's Cumberland, Wisconsin, just north of here. I know that I'm going, I couldn't grab his name out of my head.
Cumberland, Maryland.
It's my age. Watch. Is this a precursor to losing my mind in
stop that.
16 years? Biden's only 16 years older than me.
Oh, man.
So
here we go.
Scares me.
Just have to do more exercises that for neuroplasticity. So
yeah,
pick up Sudoku.
Yeah, Sudoku, crossword puzzles.
I hate
I love how you wrinkle your nose like that.
Build a puzzle. Hey, I know. Let's get this 10,000 piece puzzle. No, I don't think so. Thank you very much.
You got to get the 10,000 piece puzzle that's all one color.
I didn't say
it's all one.
I said crossword puzzle.
I'd rather go
the
insane.
New York Times crossword in ink, but use ink.
Yeah.
Oh,
there you go.
There you go. That's ballsy.
I could do a crossword, but I've done those. I want something else. What else is mentally stimulating to help prevent losing your mind someday, going into dementia?
Reading.
There are things now they're finding that
Reading,
are
yeah.
linked with Alzheimer's, like don't pick your nose deep or something like that. That they found a linkage between people who shove their finger all the way and up to the first knuckle up their nose, that these are the people that get dementia more often. I don't know how they figured that one out.
How do you do that
I've
study?
done that more than once too.
Oh my God. How can you get your finger up to the first knuckle?
I don't know, but if you're doing that, you're touching
Painfully,
brain
from
matter.
what I
I think.
understand.
You're touching your brain, man.
That's brain matter. That's not a booger. That's brain matter.
Good God.
Yeah, truth. Booger's such an innocuous word. It doesn't even mean anything.
Aren't you glad you came on, Adriana?
Yes, Adriana. What'd you talk about on the show tonight? Oh, boogers and nose picking and
Scotty losing his mind.
yeah. My eyes are really blurry today. It's not the surgery. It's just my eyes in general. I just feel blurry.
Are they dry?
Yeah,
They're a little dry. I got to put drops in this one 4 times a day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready to put drops of another kind. I got some special drops that Doc gave me just for my regular eye. My regular eye. Me normal eye.
Because they say that the more screen time you have, the fewer times that a person blinks when they're staring at a screen.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah.
I know I did a lot of screen staring today. So working on graphics. So there's that.
Yeah.
We might need to add like a game show element and just give Scotty, a certain amount of screen time. Like you do with kids. You
Wouldn't
have to
that
get
be
it done by.
Or certain kinds of questions, like ask him 3 questions each show to keep his mind into
The mental acuity test.
And I'm going to tell you, if I had a nickel for every time my wife said, you really got to be working on that tattooing and mastering that, I'd already be retired onto some white sand beach island in the Caribbean drinking rum. But if I got a nickel every time she brought it up. So again, today, 3 times a day. But I think of that. The only reason that came up because I'm thinking of staring at the computer and the things I do for work, and I got to write books. I got books, and I got to stare at my computer, and all of this, and everything involves my computer that is vocational. And
you just need to get you a big, huge screen or hook it up to the TV.
I should put we've got a 75-inch TV upstairs. We should take and put that down here. Or I could take the 55-inch one and put it across over there.
Less strain on the eyes.
I wanted an 86-inch TV. We got a 75.
Does
Sounds like a good
really
compromise.
matter, though?
It's nice because we had what do we have up there? 50-inch, 52-inch, something like that. 48-inch to 52, somewhere in there. And I would sit, and we've got it set up since we did the wood floors up there. We got the TV against that wall, which has the hallway going down that way and the front door and the stairway going downstairs here on that side. So it's that wall. We painted it a nice color. And I thought, that's going to be a great wall to have just a big TV on. And then all the sofas we've got now all the way over on the other side of the room. We've got that open wood floor where the girls all do their tumbling and their basketball. And so don't throw the basketball in the house. I'm just dribbling. And the one girl does all her gymnastics and cheerleading stuff. It's nice to have that big open expansive room.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of bookshelves in there, sofas, and then the TV. And I thought that 48-inch TV just will not do there. We need to have something a little bigger. And I didn't even know they made them that big. I was looking at a 75-inch, and I went, oh, this is 86 inches. And Rainy said it'll just never fit on the wall. And I did the measuring from the light switch on this side to the light switch over on that side. I said it's going to fit perfectly with about a foot in between because it's 86 this way, diagonally, not across.
Right.
And I thought, flat screen mounted on that wall, it'll be like living in a movie theater.
Until a kid's doing their tumbling and a foot goes through the TV. That's
Or a basketball.
or a basketball.
Yeah, my kids do have this bad habit of just walking out in the room, just standing there, and it's like, excuse me.
You make a better door than a window.
I don't even have to say anything. It's a hand signal that's done. I just go, and they got it. They'll go, God. Oh my God. OMG, Dad. And so like I'm sitting here on my fat ass in one spot to watch a show. And I like that TV up there. I got to tell you, 75 inches is nothing to shake a stick at.
Right.
Because I had the 48-inch, and I'd go through, like, I'm looking at YouTube or Hulu or whatever, and I'm going, and if I didn't, even when I had my glasses, I'm like,
what does that say?
What does that say? What is that? Because, they come up in the little squares, to tell you what's showing.
Right.
And I'd have to get up and walk halfway to the TV to be able to read it. And I could see the picture fine. I just couldn't read the small print.
Yeah.
And now that we've got the 75-inch TV, it's like I'll sit back with the remote and I'll go, and I don't watch a lot of TV up there, but I'll sit back with the remote. Click. Oh, that's what's playing. Oh, yeah, I see what that's about. There's the synopsis. You sit back and you're going, clicking, you're going, I wonder what the poor people are watching tonight. And that's the way you feel. And so, but yeah, that's a sweet TV.
Jesus.
It's sweet. And I could still use it. We were at, what store were we at? Walmart or Target. I think it was Walmart a couple days ago.
Oh, how do the poors watch on anything smaller than this?
What the poor people are watching tonight. And but we went walking down the aisle and they had, and I went, oh, and I ran my finger along the box of the 86-incher. I go, we could have had the 86-incher. And Rainey says, it's too big. I said, no, it's not. I said, honey, it's never too big. And she's like, right, whatever. And she walked on without me. She pays me no never mind anymore. And so
I doubt that's true.
I still have a lust for an 86-inch TV up there. That way the 75-inch can come down here.
It's just it's gonna get there. You're just working in stages. All right.
We have too damn many TVs. Yeah. To tell you the truth. Now we're sometimes hard up for cash, but we got a sizable refund from our taxes. So we splurged a little, and Rainey said, I think the kids let's do it now while we've got a little extra. They could all have a TV in their room. And she found it for like $120 each for 43-inch TVs. So my kids have 43-inch TV in their room, each one of them. But we got them at a great price, deep discount price. And then we got our 75-incher at a deep discount price. And so then I started counting when we got those home. I go, yeah, one of the TVs had a big, like hole in it, in the screen itself. It was like a digital hole. I just
a burnt spot.
What?
A burnt spot.
Burnt spot. Yeah. Somebody threw bounced a basketball into it.
Oh, okay.
Flynn's had something wrong with his, and Ellery's worked, but all of a sudden I'm counting. I go, let's see, we got the big living room TV. We got the big family room TV. We got the TV in the master bedroom. We got the TV in Flynn's room, Rowan's room, Ellery's room. That's 6. Then we got their 3 old TVs. I said, there was a day, I told my kids, when I was your age, I said, I didn't even know Star Trek was in color.
Right.
Because we had one black and white TV, a Zenith 13-inch black and white portable TV.
That's a name you haven't heard in a while.
Zenith,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We had a Zenith TV and we had a Zenith computer.
We didn't have a computer because
And the remote control was your
yet.
parents telling you to go and change the channel.
Yeah.
Right.
That was about it. And we did that. We had the rabbit ears, and we had to put tin foil on them and coat hangers. Sometimes the rabbit ears, there was something wrong with them, or they went missing, or whatever. We screwed coat hangers onto the back, and you had a coat hanger up.
Tin foil.
Tin foil, all of that to try to pick up a signal. And you're like, it's great while I'm touching it. And then you go, there, that's perfect. You go to stuck, it goes back out.
That's one of those things, you kind of highlight something when you're talking about, all the TVs, that how skewed has society's perception of, poor versus middle class versus wealthy, like those types of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it's like, you take a look around at things and it's like, we are probably, even at the lower end of the spectrum, living the most wealth and people have the most, personal wealth that they have ever had in history.
That's it. And we are not wealthy. We are like, there's some months we're like, oh my God, how are we going to pay that? Now, if we were rational people, we would have taken our refund and go, well, let's just put that in the bank so we're okay on the lean months. No. Au contraire.
There was actually an article that I read, and they say, as to the difference of disparity, I guess you can say, is that to be the top 1% of the world, you have to be making $35,000 to be in the top 1% in the world.
That 35,000? Yeah.
Yeah. That
puts things into perspective. That's taking into account globally.
That's what I mean, globally. Yeah.
It's it's kind of mind-boggling when you look at things and then you hear people talk about the complaints that they have. Not to say that there aren't legit complaints out there, right? There are. But sometimes you got to look at it and you got to think to yourself, okay, in the history of our nation, in the history of the world, the things that we have access to at the even at the poverty line, if you will, it is mind-blowing today. If you compared it to today to 50 years ago, if you compare our current status today at the lower end of the spectrum to, things going on in, I don't know, somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa or on, remote Polynesian islands, whatever, right?
Right.
There is such a skewed sense of things. And it's like, I don't know, that kind of gives you a perspective about things.
It does. It does.
If you allow it to, you know what I mean? Like, you stop to think about it. And that's kind of I wonder when you look at mindsets of people, and you listen to enough political pundits and things like that, things to hear the victim mentality, and can't get ahead because of whatever, and things like that, or it's like, do you realize where you are sitting right now? Do you understand the order of magnitude, in terms of how well things are versus where they could be.
Yeah.
It's like they say, travel broadens the mind. It's like every time, I leave the country, every time I come back, I'm like, oh, I'm grateful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Provides perspective. I mean, It's interesting too, because then you go to some places like I remember going down some streets in Afghanistan, and you're like,
Yes.
wow. And then you're like, oh man, like there's a bunch of people like, and this was like the early days of smartphones still, but like everybody's got a cell phone, everybody's doing something. So you have these weird bits of technology interspersed into, what in some
Right.
areas is like abject poverty. It's like,
Yes.
it's just so weird to see that.
I had this very similar experience to that being in Egypt.
Yeah.
Every time I'd go to Egypt, there was one time we went to a little village called Qom, Kom. And this is where there was a local contractor who lived there. And by the way, get out of your mind the big, the big Ford or Chevy, all duty pickup truck, Ram Tough, for the contractor
Right.
who goes out and builds homes. This is a guy who had a donkey,
Right.
and he probably had a little tiny Subaru type of pickup truck or a Toyota pickup truck.
The amount of things that I would see in terms of sheer volume being hauled on a motorcycle,
Unbelievable.
Insane.
I've got so many pictures of people.
No, that person would definitely win at Tetris.
If like literally like people just carrying, bigger than the motorcycle and themselves and a potential passenger, like load of stuff tied to the back of their motorcycle.
Sugarcane. We were going through the sugarcane fields south of Luxor.
Yeah.
And going out in just on a dirt road surrounded by sugarcane and sand, and go through a little town. And here's a guy, this little town. You know what impressed me? Well, first of all, you're passing the guys that have a donkey that's so overloaded. You don't know how the donkey's even walking.
Right.
But then you've got the little motorbikes, motorbikes, and they've got it loaded down with like a ton of sugarcane.
Right. And it's like they're rolling on like a little like 150cc bike. You're like, what?
But
That's
then,
a scooter.
John, we're driving through this town. We're going down. We're looking for the lost quarries of Armand, south of Luxor, with a couple of archaeologists.
Do you remember how much gas was?
You're riding in the dusty, and you're just going, in the dust and sun. And we go through one of these little towns, and everybody's sitting smoking shisha in one of the shops. All the men, open air shop. It wasn't adobe, but it's that kind of structure you find in northern Africa,
right?
And there's nothing there, nothing. It's sand. There's sugar cane out there in that field, so on. And then we see some guy riding a donkey, going out of town. He's in his galabeya and his headdress, and he's out of town, and he's on his phone,
right?
He's doing this, and John goes. He looks around and goes, I wonder who he's calling.
Right.
It's like his whole life is living in this little tiny village in the middle of nowhere in the desert.
Right.
And he's on his cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, dude, who you calling anyway?
It's either his wife or his mother.
Probably. Yeah. More than likely. It's just, it's seeing that stuff is just absolutely insane. If I tried to go anywhere with that much garbage loaded down on my Harley Davidson, they'd throw me in jail.
They would.
Like being a hazard to society and everyone on the road.
I've done a lot less and a lot bigger trucks.
Right.
And thought I'm going to get in trouble for this.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Do you remember how much gas was over there?
Oh, I don't remember. I never had to pay for it over there. It was interesting. Whenever I went, John always covered my butt, and I never had to drive anywhere. He'd always have drivers picking us up, picking me up. These guys that worked for him. And it's like I flew in. They had already gone down to their site at Gebel El Silsila, and I flew into Luxor, and a fellow picked me up that I knew, one of his guys, Little Mo, we called him. He picked me up, dropped me at John and Maria's house. And then I had a driver come. No, I walked into town down to the river and took the ferry boat over and went over to the temples in Luxor. Saw an old friend there. And then I came back, and the next morning I had a driver. I was there for about 3 days while they were at the site before I went down there. And he came and picked me up, Egyptian dude. He says, my name is Shakespeare. You may call me Shakespeare. I remember him. And he says, to be or not to be. His joke, 2 beers or not 2 beers. And he doesn't drink because he's Muslim. But he got the greatest kick out of that. And so I never had to pay for gas. Because his drivers would just pick me up, take me anywhere I wanted to go. Where do you want to go today, Mr. Scott? Or they call me doctor because I was with the archaeologists. Everybody with the archaeologists were doctors. Dr. Scott. So, totally different way of life. That's when you and I, Jason, were talking about, I wanted to get an Indian motorcycle.
Yeah.
And we need to get motorcycles, go over there, take a road trip of Egypt.
No. What you do is you get a Royal Enfield.
Okay.
That's a little further Southwest Asia, but they're cheaper and they're bulletproof.
That's a TV show I have not yet seen done on a travel channel, doing a motorcycle tour of Egypt.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of Egypt. There's so Ewan McGregor and his best friend, I can't remember the actor's name. They've done two limited series now. One is Long Way Round, and then the other is Long Way Down. And so in Long Way Around, they circumnavigate the globe on motorcycles.
Nice.
Going from England to New York.
Well, the Pacific, that was one tough haul.
Well, no, what they did is
they just rode their motorcycles back and forth on the yacht on the boat.
No, they went up into Siberia up towards
that's cool. That's cool.
All of that area, and then they caught a boat once they got up to where the Bering Sea was.
Yep.
And they crossed over into Alaska and then down the Alcan Highway, and then on across, I guess, what is that, 50?
That's pretty cool. That's pretty
right. Cool. And then Long Way Down, they went from the furthest point north on in Scotland, right?
Right.
And then they didn't go all the way to the end of Africa, I don't think. I believe they went to basically they followed everything all the way down into Africa through the Dakar Rally.
Wow.
Route
is what a trip.
Right. Yeah. And they did this off the back of motorcycles. And so they may have hit Egypt, but I don't think they ran around Egypt.
I'd do a trip like that. I wanted to do, when you and I were talking about that, was about 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that. And but I remember and it makes me think of an ad. I got to coalesce my thoughts here. Now, at my age, I could still do that and really enjoy it and have a good time and do it successfly. But I just have to pee more. And what comes to mind? I'd be riding my Indian motorcycle. I got my Indian. I saw some ad, and this is what it reminded me of right away. It shows some Sam Elliott kind of guy.
Oh God!
He's riding his motorcycle, and he's got his black leathers on, and his sunglasses, big white mustache.
God, my depends.
And he's talking about the freedom of the open road and doing this and that and the other thing. But now I find the best thing for me these days, and he's a guy, he's about 60. The best thing for me are these manly man blue jean pads or whatever they call them. It says, so that way when I gotta go and I got a little leakage problem, I don't have to worry about it no more. And it's like, God, I cannot wait to be in my 60s, riding a Harley or an Indian motorcycle, wearing my blue jeans, my black leathers, and talking about getting pads so I don't pee my pants. So
just, do Kegels and help.
Yeah, do your Kegels.
Right. I mean, it's,
Just me, I'd be there riding my bike going. I'm exaggerating, of course. What are you doing? Doing my Kegels. I don't want to pee my jeans. I don't want to have to get pads.
Exactly.
And folks, that's a real thing, by the way.
Yes,
when
it
you
is.
get into your 60s, most men, the overabundance, the predominant percentage of men have to pee more often. It's just the way it is.
It's men and women.
Yeah.
Men and women.
Main
There you
questions
go.
when he hit 65 that they always push us in the doctor's office and make sure you ask them, are you having urinary incontinence?
Yeah.
And the more more kids that you have, the worse it gets.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Don't make your girlfriend or your wife laugh.
There it is. Yeah.
That's yeah.
I think I hear more from Rainey these days. No, Rainey's 20 years younger than I am, but I hear more from her these days. Get out of the way. I got to pee now. And it's like that's all the time.
Right.
So, whoa. Yeah, okay. Anyway, on that note, on that beautiful stream-driven note, we're going to call it quits for tonight because it's after 11 o'clock, and I got to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
11 o'clock used to be such a benign time to go to bed. It's like, it's 11. The night's not even started yet. And I don't have to get up till 6. I can stay up for a couple more hours.
And don't forget the clock change this past weekend too.
That doesn't affect me very much for some reason. I don't care. My body doesn't care. It's like, I don't care. I woke up at, let's see, if I normally wake up at 5, but now it's 6 o'clock at what was 5 o'clock 2 days ago, I'm up at 4. So it's like, what the hell? So there it is.
It stays so dark up here during the winter in the evenings and in the mornings and things like that I think I've just gotten used to having a messed up internal clock.
It has to be.
So
that is one thing I do not miss about living in Minnesota as to how dark quickly it got outside.
Now, why didn't I know? You must have said it was before, and I must have missed it. I didn't know you lived in Minnesota.
Yeah, for 15 years.
Oh boy.
We met at Fest way back when.
The sun is up right now until about 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Because of daylight savings time, and it rises at. The sun rose at 7:30 this morning, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I love in the summertime. I used to get up.
Oh yeah.
I would hear the birds start singing at 4:10 in the morning in the sun, and I would hear the birds singing, and then I know it's morning.
Yeah.
And I'd get up. I'd go outside. I'd have a smoke. I'd read.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always nice. But then I always liked the middle of the summer when it's like 9:40 at night and the sun hasn't quite gone down yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Barely. You're like, I like summer.
I will admit, moving to St. Louis, I am going to miss the insanity that is, Jesus, it's like almost 9:30 and it's like dusk. What's going on around here?
Mm-hmm.
I will miss that.
Is it that much different when you go
yeah.
down from North Dakota down to Kansas?
Oh yeah, yeah. Your drive south, it changes big time. It's super noticeable.
I noticed my grandfather who had the little island off the Honduras. When I went down there, sunset came, it was dark.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You had no lingering sunset. It just equatorial sun, just
Right.
gone.
Yeah.
And you had long days though. Same thing with sunrise. It's like, oh, sun's up. You know. So,
Right.
anyway, like I said several minutes ago, it's time to end.
Well, I'll leave first, but I just want to say one quick thing. I want to wish everyone who is fasting happy Ramadan Mubarak.
That's right.
So since we were talking about sunrises and sunsets, so fasting month starts technically in an hour or tomorrow.
There you go.
Mhm.
So
Well, happy Ramadan. So that reminds me, I've got to send some greetings out to some friends across over in Egypt. So, all right. You have a good night, Sarah. Thanks
all
for
right,
being
thanks, guys.
here. Adriana, thanks for being here.
Likewise. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Jason, same thing for you, fella.
Same to you, sir.
You have a good night.
All
I'll
right.
talk
You
to you
too.
next time. Maybe tomorrow.
All right.
Okay, bye. Oops. Hey, welcome back.
What the heck?
All right, folks. That's it. That's all we got for tonight. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking around. And you know what? We'll see you next time. Live long and prosper.